Hey folks, welcome back to Chris White Africa here on the Indaba Africa channel on the Indaba Broadcasting Network on Friday, the 29th of January 2021. It's a lecker Freitagabend in South Africa. A schöner Abend, ja, in Deutschland und hier auch in den Vereinigten Staaten ist es ziemlich sehr schön. Very nice here in the States as well. Folks, welcome on a January winter day, the dead of the winter, nearly out of the month of January. Going to be inviting my guest on just a moment. I hear his mic came on. But my guest today is Herman Roos, who is a tobacco farmer in Northwest. We've had him on the program previously talking about the tobacco industry in South Africa. Today I asked him to come back and talk to us a little bit about the court case that was resolved a couple weeks ago. And we're going to talk about the impact of the unlawful, unconstitutional, unwarranted, unnecessary tobacco ban in South Africa. And you probably know my feelings on the ban based on that. And I hate tobacco. I'm not a smoker, but I don't begrudge other people use of it. So, and I also realize the stupidity of trying to make 11 million tobacco consumers in South Africa go cold turkey. Not a wise decision. Well, with that, folks, let me welcome Herman back in. Herman, how gaat it?
Hi, Chris. How are you? And hi, everybody. And it's good to be back on your channel again. You guys should excuse my throat. Working out at the tobacco barns at night, and it's raining and it's cold, so it is a bit of a difficulty for me. So yeah, I do get sinuses. Excuse me if my voice doesn't sound nice tonight.
All right. Well, we'll try to get through this as best we can with your voice then. So, this court case that was who lodged this court case? Was it Solidarity or AfriForum, or was it tobacco industry?
It was BATSA. British Americans Tobacco South Africa was the main applicant, and then there was, I think additionally there was 7 additional applicants also in the case, but BATSA was the main applicant in the court case.
Now, is this the case that they filed last year that was dismissed, and did it come back? Did they reappeal?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, what happened is basically we went to court, or BATSA went to court. I was a deponent in the court case under the Southern African Initiative, SAI. And yeah, on the 11th of December, the 3 judges unanimously declared that we won the court case, basically coming down that the 20-week ban was sort of unconstitutional. I'm not a lawyer, so I try and understand the legal jargon and everything. And on the 4th of January, the minister appealed the court case. Now, what basically happened is the moment she appealed the judgment, technically she can reintroduce a ban on tobacco products again. And yeah, so that's where we are at the moment. We are waiting for the appeal to be heard. Now it's going to cost a lot of money going back and forth to court again, and we don't know up until now. I haven't received anything from the lawyers or when the appeal is going to be heard. But yeah, that's where we sit at this stage is that she can technically on the 15th of February, when they extend the lockdown again, or between today and the 15th, they can reintroduce a ban.
So at the moment, the ban is not there.
No, there's no ban yet.
Well, there was a ban. It was suspended because you won the case. They appealed, but it can't be reinstituted until 15 February.
Look, Hello, Chris.
I'm here.
Oh, what's happened to my...
I'm here.
Okay, sorry. The internet connection was bad. Technically, they can reinstitute the ban, as I said, from tomorrow up until the 15th or after the 15th of February. Technically, they can reinstitute the ban. Should they change on the level 3, they can do changes. But at this stage, it seems like the cabinet does not want to reintroduce the ban, and there's some positivity for us there. The problem, if such a ban is reintroduced, except for giving the illicit market another boost. Our buyer, British American Tobaccos, who has been very, very faithful to their contract, and people must understand how it works. I'm a tobacco producer, all right. We, as farmers, have a co-op called LTP. Now, at LTP, all the tobacco goes to LTP, and from there, we have different buyers. Which BAT is our Batsa is our biggest buyer. All right, but like a company, we have contractual obligations that we have to meet. All right, quality is one aspect. Chemical compliance to and STP or social responsibilities, your gaps, your good agricultural practices, but also the demand. All right. So if BAT falls below 10 billion cigarettes sold in South Africa, it is not feasible for them to continue to uphold their side of the contract, and they can cancel the contract with LTP.
So the contract is written so that if BAT's volumes, sales in South Africa drop below 10 billion smokes, then they can abrogate the contract.
Yes.
Okay.
That is a bit of a problem. Now, understandable is that, and this people must understand that Batsa went out of their way last year to help us sell the excess tobacco. All right. They didn't just go like all other multinational companies and say, oh, okay, this is a problem, we can cancel our contract. The relationship between BAT and our company and the farmers is phenomenal. Mm-hmm. And that is due to, I think, the guys, it has taken years to build that relationship between our directors. And I would like to thank specifically Mr. Rudolf Otterman, who is our director, who has been working with BAT. We have Francois from Van der Merwe from SATA. There's a few guys that has been working to protect us as producers. And the question we should ask actually tonight is, the court case is, we don't know at this stage what the minister wants to do. Should the minister introduce a new ban, then technically commercial tobacco farming in South Africa is dead. That means 8,000 farm workers won't have a job by the end of April. And yes, Chris?
No. I was just waiting for a moment for you to, since you need a drink. It's a good moment. So I'm a little okay. So I not to throw shade on Batsa. I mean, it's fantastic that British American Tobacco is trying to help out. In full disclosure, I was once a shareholder of British American Tobacco, no longer, but that was years ago. But
traitor.
But no, I mean, it just seems to me good business practice. I mean, it reminds me of De Beers in the 2008 financial crisis globally, when people just stopped buying diamonds, full stop, overnight. The diamond market globally just dropped through. I mean, sales dropped 98% overnight with diamonds globally for gemstone diamonds. De Beers could have shut the mines down and thrown thousands of people out of work in Jwaneng and Orapa in Botswana. But what they did is they used their cash reserves to continue the mining at a reduced level. They could not have to make people redundant, and they kept collecting, and they hoarded, and they stockpiled the diamonds, and then kept them so they could. Now there's twofold for them. It helps control the price. It doesn't work the same way with tobacco. The stuff gets old and expires. But my point is that it just seems to me that maybe that it's great that they have this great relationship, but it was also good strategic thinking. I mean, you can't let your tobacco suppliers collapse last year and then come back this year and go, okay, now we need tobacco if you're all out of business. So it seems like that is that part of it as well. I mean, it's just good business, isn't it?
I think in the sense, the fact that they went all out to protect their market. Now, their market share is not just cigarettes, the end product. Their market share is also tobacco producers in South Africa. And I think what they did was brilliant. As you said, there are companies that literally throws the baby out with the bathwater. They could have done it. If you take between Philip Morris, JTI, and Batsa, last year alone, between them, all of them together sold, I think, 9.7 billion cigarettes. Mm-hmm. Now, if you take that is already below what BAT South Africa needs to sell to keep afloat. Right? And still, these guys kept to their commitment, which is, for me, is very interesting. But I would like to touch on something very, very interesting tonight, if it's okay with you, Chris. It's also part of a court case, because Yusuf Abramji, as I mentioned to you earlier in the week, did a thing after the court case of the illicit trade.
Yeah.
because this is part and parcel of what happened is the illicit trade boomed in South Africa.
Oh,
Legal trade.
Did it ever?
Did it ever? And what should scare people is that for April, everybody was sort of running around trying to find cigarettes. By mid-May to end of May, you could literally just walk down the street and ask somebody for cigarettes, and you could have bought it. Okay, at an exuberant high price, but you could find it. It wasn't a problem.
We're also talking about illicit cigarettes, right?
Yeah, this is illicit
Right.
cigarettes. This wasn't
it's
legal.
It's not just exorbitant price. It's dodgy origins. It's quality issues, and also
That's
international
exactly.
trafficking. Because
Yeah.
I'm guessing much of this tobacco came from Zimbabwe.
Yes, and that is the one thing is what we should understand about this illicit trade. And I sent you the document Smoking Gun. And if the viewers are here tonight, please go to Tax Justice South Africa. Look for Yusuf Abramji. They did an excellent expose on what exactly happened after the ban was lifted. How this illicit trade increased. Now, to give you guys an idea, actually, one of the things is during it found that Batsa, our buyer, BAT was down 14.4%. All right.
Yep.
JTI 9.9%, and Philip Morris was down 14% after the post ban. Okay, I'll read it here as Yusuf wrote it. A later post ban in December study by REAP concluded, all right, that this was after the ban. By contrast, manufacturers whom we define as illicit, GLTC up by 10%, Carney Links 3.8%, Best Tobacco 88.6%, Pacific 86.1%, Amalgamated Tobacco 29.1%, Afroberg 406.1%. This is what post-ban the illicit trade grew. How am I, as a farmer, going to fight against this? Because as good business is, I cannot expect my buyer to give me an increase when he had a 14.4% decrease in his market value.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Not to just mention that. I mean, your cigarette producers and your pipe tobacco producers and cigar producers and all those folks, they have fixed costs. I mean, they have to pay for utilities, they have to pay rents, the mortgages, land, leases. They have to pay staff that you can't get rid of all your staff. You've still got to do marketing and advertising, even if you can't do sales in the moment. So, yeah, that's a big issue here, and that's part of the whole industry. So let me use that moment right there to answer a question that Marauder had.
Yeah.
Marauder said that, and this is why I want to talk about this. He said, I'm a smoker, part of a minority that's frowned upon. Yes, you are. No. Why does the tobacco industry matter to so many people that don't agree with smoking? Well, here's the thing. It's a legitimate industry. There's nothing wrong with it. It is a choice that people have. The issues I have with it personally are I just don't care for people who are arrogant about it. Now, my experience is that most people who still smoke these days aren't arrogant. Most of the arrogant smokers have long since disappeared from the smoking arena. What I mean by that is people that would come into your home and light up a cigarette without even asking, climb in your car and start smoking a cigarette. I mean, that's the kind of behavior that those of us who are non-smokers were subjected to for years and years as a child and as a young adult. Most people go ahead, Herman.
Sorry, even me, I'm also a smoker. It is just plain commonly disgusting if somebody doesn't smoke and you just want to smoke in their car or house or near the children. I don't even smoke in my own house.
Yeah.
Even if it's bitterly cold, I have to go and stand outside.
I can attest to this because Herman, that's why we started a minute or so late, because he had to go have a smoke before the show. He went outside the house, but no, but back to what I'm saying here. So my issue with it is that the people who are rude and that sort of thing, and being subjected to it in government buildings and in uniform stuff like that. When that stuff was eliminated from there and people were asked to smoke outside in other locations, I my objections to it are greatly reduced because people are much more considerate. That's very different. But the tobacco industry is a legitimate industry. It's not criminal. Well, I mean, the dodgy stuff is. I'm talking about the legitimate growers. It's a choice. Whether I choose to drink a Frappuccino, all this sugar and caffeine, and not weigh 800 pounds, still take care of myself, that's a choice. If I want to smoke, that's a choice. And beyond that, it's an industry that supplies South Africa, and it's domestic. South Africans don't have to buy Marlboros. They don't have to get their cigarettes from the U.S. They don't have to get their cigarettes from elsewhere because they can produce them at home, right there in South Africa, which creates jobs, tax revenue, and employs all kinds of people in multiple sectors across South Africa. Every time you affect one sector, it has a ripple effect across the entire economy. And that's the reason why I have an interest in tobacco sector. Also, in the interest of full disclosure, I'm a shareholder in Altria, and it has done incredibly well for me. For 25 years, I refused to buy tobacco stocks. And eventually, when I realized that most of the people still smoking the plant were Chinese and they were killing themselves, I was happy to buy Altria stock so they could help kill themselves.
Chris, you're bordering it there a bit on a bit of a troublesome conversation. Look, Chris, the thing is, and that's what people must understand, is when we talk illicit trade, it is not just tax and just a revenue that's not going to the government. Over the past year, in 2018, and once again, I'm referring back, guys, to Smoking Gun. It was written by Yusuf Abramji, because this guy did his homework. This guy knows what he's talking about. In 2018, it was estimated that the Treasury lost 7 billion. In 2018, in excise, due to the excise tax revenue, due to the illicit market.
And this is before this is before any COVID-19 nonsense and tobacco ban. That's a normal market.
Correct.
Normal marketplace. They're losing that much to illicit cigarettes.
Correct.
Okay.
All right. Now take 5 billion plus in the 20-week ban. It is estimated that South Africa lost more than 5 billion. Okay, let's peg it at 5 billion plus another estimated 7 billion. You're talking of nearly 24 million doses of approximately 24 million doses of COVID-19 vaccinations if Business Insider is correct, at 500 Rand a dose, that's roughly 24 million doses of vaccine that could have been bought.
Yeah, and that's just a tobacco ban. Had they not destroyed e-commerce for a few months there early on, if they had not had these feckless and stupid alcohol bans. I mean, it's stupid things like you can't transport alcohol. Half of the wine in South Africa is exported, and about 60% of the profit from wine is from foreign sales. And what they did is made themselves unreliable suppliers to their foreign purchasers. So now when people need regular Shiraz, they're going to look to Australia, they're going to look to France, they're going to look elsewhere because the South African market...
California.
California. Well, that's not bad. Because that market is unreliable. Because they wouldn't let them transport it to the port for shipment abroad because they're just that stupid.
You see, and that's the thing. If we look at all of these things now, suddenly they say, you said earlier that when President Ramaphosa was on the tube and he said African countries or poorer countries were put behind. But if they did not implement the alcohol ban and the tobacco ban and used our revenue that they garnered from both the alcohol industry, let's put it the sin taxes.
Yep.
All right.
That alone would have covered it.
That alone would have covered it. All right. They could have kept SAA in the air for 1 year alone, without asking any passenger to pay one single ticket.
Yep. Now,
if we start,
go ahead. I'm going to start. Go ahead, Herman.
Yeah. Chris, and that's the major concern for me as a tobacco farmer. We've talked about what the implications are, the detrimental effects on the economy. But one side people don't understand. If you pay less than 25 Rand a packet of cigarettes, you are buying illicit cigarettes. Right. Tax on a pack of cigarettes is 20 Rand. I think it's 20 Rand 70 per pack. Let me just get my facts straight. Yes, it's 20 Rand. Yeah, 20 Rand a packet. Exactly. Sorry, not 20 Rand, 70. Correct myself there. And it costs the manufacturer between 4 and 5 Rand, for argument's sake, to make that pack. At 25 Rand, it is actually not feasible for him to put that thing into the market. All right. But less than 25, you can say, that's dangerous. Now, we must ask the questions to the viewers. Each one of you that lights up a cigarette pack that's 7 Rand 50. First of all, that tobacco that's used in that cigarette, and we argue, it was argued in the court case as well, I think, if I can remember correctly. First of all, does that tobacco comply with the nicotine standards that is implemented by government method? All right. If it says 1.2 milligrams of nicotine, does it really contain 1.2 milligrams? Or is it 3 milligram or 4 milligram? Because people must understand, you have different types of tobacco. You have air-cured tobacco, which runs in the range of 6 to 8% of nicotine. Then we have cigarette tobacco like ours, which runs in the ranges of between 1.5 and 4% of nicotine. You're buying cigarettes that's probably laced with a tobacco like air-cured tobacco that has a higher nicotine level than as per government agreed method. Right. Secondly, we don't know what contaminants are in that tobacco. Is there any pesticide contaminant? Is there chemicals in those
mercury,
contaminants?
lead, cadmium?
We don't know. We don't know how those things, where they stored them. Was it stored in a proper, safe environment? And the third thing is the money that is generated from these type of cigarettes. Look, it's not taxable. It's non-taxable money. So somewhere that money has to go in, diverted to different places. Where is it diverted? Is it into smuggling? Is it? I'm asking questions. I'm not saying it is.
Yeah.
Where does it go? What is it used for? If it was to buy new cars and bigger houses, I wouldn't have probably complained. But the thing is, we all know from the time of Pablo Escobar, the moment you start working with illegal money, that's the moment you start funding illegal activities.
Well, Keith has just asked an interesting question. It's along those lines, and let me read it, and then I'll give an answer, and then you can give your answer and see if we're in agreement on this. Keith said, "I doubt if the government is solely interested in pocketing stolen money. A second ulterior motive is the destruction of white business to replace with black ones. Will they achieve this?" I can't state whether that's a motive or not, but what I can say is that they're also harming small-scale black tobacco farmers in South Africa.
Yes.
So this doesn't help any South Africans other than criminals and corrupt politicians. Yes. So how's that? Is that accurate, Herman?
Yes, because I think we have about, I can't remember, 200, 150, 200 small black farmers. I'm not sure about that, the number, but we have a large contingent of small holding black farmers, and they are part of the legal trade.
Yep.
And if somebody has the numbers, they'll correct me
it's
on
about
that.
175, I think, last time I looked, around 175.
Yes, I think, yeah. So these guys will be detrimental. It will be totally detrimental for them to be losing this, because their livelihoods are now depending on the legal trade. So no, I don't think it is. I think this is more personal thing between Minister Dlamini Zuma and her hatred with Mantu Chabalala Msimang. And if people can go back and Google it, this already started in 96 when she was the Minister of Health, 96, 98. And she actually wrote the first amendments to the Tobacco Act, and also for the Tobacco Control Act, and also as the health regulations around the new implementations. And Mantu Chabalala Msimang took that further.
Wow, you said that very well. I can't ever pull that off as well. You pronounced her name very well.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. So yeah, if you take all of this, where this comes from, it is not just a thing that was fought in the court. I think the court case of last year, August. It feels like light years away.
Yeah.
This started already way back in the late 90s. And I think what happened is the court case was a culmination of an industry that's constantly under pressure from both government side and from the illicit trade side. Now, there's a book that you guys should really get your hands on. It's called Tobacco Wars. It's written by von Lochenberg. And he categorically states how the illicit trade started and how it grew. And since 2009, under the presidency of Jacob Zuma, the illicit trade was booming. And since 2009, and also with the changes in the SARS and with the SARS rogue unit being disbanded, it just gave these guys open season. It was open season for them. Now, if you guys have a time and you go to ENCA, there's a special report that Yusuf Abramji did on the how these guys are brazenly selling illicit cigarettes, with one of the people on record saying, they asked, it's like, aren't you afraid of the police? And he scoffed. I watched the video and he said, don't worry about them. That's not the police. If the police. That's how brazen these sellers of illicit cigarettes are. Now, where does this put us? As people who went and fought for the ban to be lifted so that they can enjoy the same rights of selling tobacco in South Africa as we are, as legal, complying people. That's...
Yeah. So this article that Yusuf Abrame did, The Smoking Gun, I think that was the title of it. When did that come out? Was that December or was that before that?
No, it was last week.
Oh, last week. Oh, okay. That's why I hadn't seen it. Okay. I'm like, how did I miss this? Okay, so last week it came out. All right. And he's exposed all this stuff. No, but I mean, Herman, to be fair, in South Africa, and not just in South Africa, but in many places, but in South Africa, lots of illicit activity takes place, and people are like, don't worry about the police because police are bought and paid for. And now, this is not saying that the police in South Africa are bought and paid for, but there are police officers who are bought and paid for. I mean, I remember seeing this the first time I was actually shocked by it in South Africa. It was about 20 years ago. I watched a Carte Blanche episode. And on Carte Blanche, they went out to talk about the combis. And they took this one combi and they tested it. And it's got 4 brakes, of course, right? 2 in the front, 2 in the back. They tested it. So if you go with 100% for each brake, you should have 400%, right? 100%, 100%. So you add it together 400%. They tested it. Only one brake was working. It was the front driver's side brake. And that was working at 16% of capacity. So instead of 400% braking capacity, this combi, which carried a dozen people around, had 16%. So they took that vehicle and they went to go get it a license, to renew the license, and they went to 2 cops, a black and a white cop, and they paid them off. They caught them on film, and they gave them stuff for the sticker and said it was roadworthy. So I mean, you can buy officials all over the place. It's so it's not surprising that these illicit traders are like, don't worry about the cops, we got this under control.
That's the problem, Chris. And now we should ask. And this is a bit of off the topic of what we're actually talking about tonight. But if this is how brazen the illicit trade is, my question is, how brazen are people going to be when it comes to the COVID-19 vaccinations? What are the corruption going to be there? But I think that is just off a bit away off the topic of what we are discussing tonight. But yeah, that for me is scaring me, because if I read this, and I've read through again through some of our affidavits during the court case, the one lady, she was a drug addict,
Yes.
and she's now running a house for people. And choosing between hard drugs, heroin, cocaine, and these things, and cigarettes, she prefers to smoke. Now, suddenly, her right is taken away. So, what should she do? Go back to hard drugs? No, you don't want that, because she recovered to such a position that she is now helping people
Yeah.
in that same position, and she's doing a brilliant job. Now suddenly you are discriminating against people who need nicotine, rather, which is not good. Nicotine is not good. I know it's not good for me. But there's always the but. And now
But that's
people
not even the
will
issue.
disagree.
Herman, but that's not even the issue. And this is why I took offense to the alcohol and tobacco bans, the total prohibition on tobacco and the bans on alcohol trading and such when they first came down the 27th of March last year. You don't take 11 million people, most of whom are actually addicted to nicotine. Let's be honest, like people addicted to caffeine, people who smoke or cigars, pipes, or mostly cigarettes. Are many of them, most are addicted to nicotine. You don't just take that away from them and expect them to behave like normal people and then throw them into their homes with their family for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They can't go anywhere and not expect to have gender-based violence, incest, rape, murders, isolation, suicides, mental health issues. That's just stupidity beyond belief. The banning of tobacco was inhumane in my view. Now, I don't like cigarettes. We've made that clear. They're not my cup of tea. But I appreciate that some people enjoy things and it becomes something they become accustomed and addicted to. And you can't simply take that away from them. That's beyond, you don't take a heroin addict and then just, well, they've tried this, they just try to cold turkey them. But normally you don't take a heroin addict and just cut them off from their heroin. You reduce, I'm not comparing cigarettes to heroin, please. Nobody make that equation here. You don't take alcohol, you don't take an alcoholic and just take the alcohol away from them. When you're trying to have a positive effect, because the impact on their body, their psychological well-being, their mental well-being, their health is traumatic and unnecessary. Do that to 11 million people. That's stupidity beyond belief. Now, before you answer, Herman, there was a question here I just want to get. So Charles Argo said, I don't know where this guy is from, but multinational companies are as guilty of illegal trading. Well, Herman is a producer. He's a tobacco producer in Northwest. He's a guy that grows this stuff and sells it to those who buy it at auction and who under a contract. So he's not with a multinational company. He's an actual producer of tobacco leaf. Anyway, Herman, go ahead.
Yeah. I just want to correct him there. If ever, if let's put it bluntly, if any multinationals in South Africa was ever involved in illicit trade, then I would say to you, damn, then I wouldn't be sitting here today talking to Chris and worrying about my contractual obligation for tomorrow. That's the thing people must understand. Once tobacco is bought in South Africa, and let's explain this to people.
Sure.
From the farm to LTP, which is the company that's owned by the farmers and AFGRI. Every kilogram of tobacco that is bought over that scale must be accounted for by LTP. All right. Even the dust, the sweepings, they have to account for that in their books. The amount of losses due to the machinery causing dust, what we call blow-away dust. From LTP, those boxes are tagged and also barcoded. All right. So 4 or 5 or 10 farmers' tobacco will be blend because they can do a first blend for them. Will be going into this box. It's 200 kilos in a box, and that would be shipped to Heidelberg. Mm-hmm. So from LTP right through to Heidelberg, the weight is constantly monitored, and this SARS can do an inspection anytime, and they did that. On a yearly basis, they will sit for a week at LTP, at Batsa, comparing the weights and the amount of cigarettes that was exported. Because look, they also export to Mozambique and these countries around Southern Africa, and how much was consumed within South Africa. So if a multinational within South Africa was involved in illicit trade, really, guys, do you think I would be sitting here stressing my ass off, and worrying about if my buyer can survive this year, if NDZ doesn't, if she wants to continue down this road.
No, it's a good. So a couple good questions here. Let me get to them in a second. But before I do, folks,
Yeah.
you're listening to Chris White Africa on the Indaba Africa channel, part of the Indaba Broadcasting Network, here on a lekker Freitagabend, if you speak Afrikaans, and a lovely Friday evening if you speak English. It's the 29th of January, 2021. My special feature guest today is the one, the only, Herman Roos, who is a tobacco producer, a farmer in Northwest Province in South Africa. He's been on the channel previously. Herman and I go back a ways. I was his first guest ever, I think, on his Farmers Travelers program, which was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed that. I've never been invited back, so I'm not so sure how it went.
I've been a bit off. Chris, it's high production season now. And I told you guys, hang on a bit with the live streams. I'm actually doing this tonight as a very, very special thing for you. So
no, I'm just teasing her about it. It's always, I'm always having fun.
That's fine.
But there's a couple really good things here I want to get. Let me get to them, and they're questions for you actually. One is not related to the tobacco ban. It's just a good question. Kevin Nicklin asked, how does the quality of tobacco currently produced in Zimbabwe compare with the quality of South African tobacco? Is it the product itself that's inferior or the production process? Well, I mean, before you answer that, Zimbabwe has some high quality tobacco, so we don't want to mislead people. Just because dodgy tobacco is coming in from Zimbabwe doesn't mean they don't have high quality. They have very good quality there. Anyway, so I'll let you answer that, Herman.
Yeah. Zim has always been able to produce high quality tobacco because it's just one of those countries where the climate is perfect.
The conditions are just ideal.
Conditions.
Yep.
It is Malawi, Zambia, Zimbabwe, northern part of Mozambique. It is ideal to produce tobacco. Yes. So, but now, I must honestly say, and I must commend the South African farmers. We have been able, through very, very difficulties and difficult times, to stay on par with the quality of Zimbabwe. Because if we couldn't produce in the same category of quality of what Zimbabwe produces, and there's a high bracket of good quality still being produced in Zimbabwe. It is, I'll explain it a bit later, where this cheap tobacco comes from. And the South African farmers for the past 10 years has been able to compete in the quality ranges, not in the darker cured, but we are able to stay in that bracket to keep our buyer happy. Chris, can you please just mute me for a while? I need to take this call.
You've got to mute. You put
please. All right, guys, just excuse me. This is an emergency call. I just want to quickly take this.
Okay. All right. Okay, so let me get Herman off the screen there real quick, folks. There we go. I got him off the screen. Anyway, so folks, Charles, I saw your comment there. This is what you do for a living, supply cigarette factories and tried to help tobacco farmers during the lockdown. I dealt with Bessemer. Well, there's only 300 commercial tobacco farmers in South Africa. So are you referring to those commercial farmers? And I'm curious. I always thought it strange, since Herman's off the screen at the moment, that tobacco is even grown in Northwest, because Northwest is not a place that strikes me as a tobacco region, as I'm accustomed to high humidity places with brutal summers like Virginia and Malawi, where it's really humid and tobacco grows quite well. So that's what's always struck me as a tobacco growing region. But I suppose you can grow at different places. So I was very surprised to learn about, looks like he's back. I was very surprised to learn about South Africa's tobacco industry. And that's why I had him on the channel last year, just to learn and talk about it. I did some videos on the industry itself based on my research, so we had him on. But I hope everything's okay. I mean, in South Africa, when there's an emergency call, I always worry that there's been some incident.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Sorry, guys, about that. Yes, it is just our CPF head just wants to discuss some stuff with me. So lucky enough, it's not an emergency. So good deal. I'm happy.
So while you were gone in that brief, that was a very quick call. But while you were gone, I started talking about because they were asking questions about Zimbabwe, and I said, from my personal experience, I mean, I know Northwest, I know Gauteng, I know the region very well. And it always struck me as odd that tobacco has grown there, because my experience with tobacco is in high humidity places that have brutal summers like Virginia and the Carolinas and Malawi and Uganda, places like that. And and also in the highlands in Zimbabwe, that's also similar sort of situation. So I was just curious about why it grows in South Africa. It was a bit of a surprise to me to first learn about the industry a few years back. I mean, you don't have the same sort of weather that Virginia has.
No, although we don't have the same weather as what Virginia or Zimbabwe has, Chris, I think we do have higher than normal humidity, and our temperature ranges are very close to that.
Ah,
But outside of that, nothing compares to those areas. Our soil doesn't compare.
yeah.
And the fact that we are in South Africa able to produce in the Rustenburg, Groblersdal, Marble Hall, Nelspruit, although Nelspruit it is easy because they are very much closer to producing
Mozambique
than
and
Zimbabwe.
the humidity and all
Yes,
that stuff. Yep.
yes. The fact that down in Oudtshoorn, where it is bone dry,
Yeah.
it just shows you the determination of the South African farmers. Never say never and never say no to a South African farmer because we are going to prove you wrong.
So I think what you're trying to tell us, Herman, is that the Boers are hard-headed.
Basically, yes. And I'm proud. I'm very, very proud to say it tonight. When our grandparents started farming tobacco, I think a lot of people said to him, "You're crazy." Now, this started way back in the late 30s, when the first tobacco was produced in this area. And it sort of became part of our culture, going through the struggles, learn how to cope with it, and just learn how to produce better quality next year. And this was handed down, as I said to the guys, I'm a third generation tobacco farmer on this farm. So I think it is resilience, Chris. Resilience within our farming community to still be able to produce the quality that is needed for the market within the specs of what they want, and still being able to stay on our farms with all the nonsense that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think really that for me is one of the highlights of my farming career.
So speaking of your farming career, let me ask this question, because I'm going to guess, before you answer, let me lay this out. So it's going to be more of sort of a statement than the question.
Yeah.
But I'm going to guess that the relationship you have with those who work on your farm is a long established one. And let me explain why from my perspective. You can tell me if I'm off the mark. If you work on a cattle post, you get fired or you move somewhere else, there are plenty of other cattle posts in South Africa. If you grow maize and you work on a farm that grows maize or wheat, there are other places that do it. But there aren't many places that grow tobacco, and it's a very specialized type of farming, and you have to have certain skills. So you can't just rock up and be useful to a tobacco farmer on day one. It takes a lot of time. So do you, in fact, have long-term relationships with families that have been on the farms?
Chris, actually quite interesting. Within South Africa, most of your families will stay on one farm. They started either with the grandparents, the great grandmother worked for some of our families, worked for my grandmother, and today their children are working for us. Now I have a strict rule on my farm that children must go to school.
Yeah.
And it's one of those unbreakable rules. My wife, because she is an ex-teacher, she will not allow it, and I appreciate that. But yes, throughout South Africa, you will find families that have stayed with farms for 30, 40 years, 50 years, some of them even longer. So within the tobacco industry, because it's actually an art form, even your workers that work for you need to understand how to reap the tobacco at the right quality, how to sort the tobacco at the right quality. And this is a skill that is dying out. And the younger generations that are coming in, we are experiencing a laziness with the young generation. As I want to say, the influence of technology is now seeping through to the poorer community. We can see the attitude of they want the bling, but they don't want to do the work.
That's a common disease globally. Yikes. So
that is not just that is throughout what I've seen all over the world that I've traveled. The poorer people want yeah, they also want the bling of the rich people.
Yeah. Someone asking on here earlier, they said, I think it came just before you had to take the call. They said, does Herman sell to BAT? Yes, he does. He does sell to BAT as tobacco. We talked about that earlier. By the way, folks, 111 currently watching. Thank you so much for that. But 63 likes.
Thank you.
Come on, man. What, would you hate cigarettes? I don't like cigarettes.
There's my like.
I'll give it a like. Ooh, there's 64. All right, come on.
I've just, come on, guys, throw that like button. I've just given it. Chris, I just want to see Beth. I just want to see. I've actually seen Beth Fraser.
Oh, Beth Fraser. Okay.
Yes, somebody asked about the vape. Hi.
Yes, no. The question was whether it's whether you produce it for the nicotine. Yeah.
No, most of the nicotine that is in vape products is what we call laboratory vape.
It's fabricated. It's chemical.
Yes, yeah, it's a chemical because it's too expensive to, I think, to produce from raw tobacco. Although I would say if you can get nicotine that was extracted from raw tobacco, like what Philip Morris have with the IQOS, I think. If you want to go the vape direction, rather go the IQOS way. It's much better because we don't know what the influence. I don't know. I've read up on synthetic nicotine, and what I've read on synthetic nicotine, it is actually bloody dangerous. And as far as I know, a few women have killed a few men with synthetic nicotine.
Wow. Oh, you mean they poison them with it?
Yeah, they poisoned their husbands.
I thought you meant they were vaping and it drove them crazy.
No.
I didn't think that for a second. It's interesting because I asked that question because, it's very different. I mean, listen, I was a farmer, a dairy farmer, but I grew crops as well. I mean, I can make hay, I can grow winter wheat, maize, tomatoes, potatoes, peas, beans, I know how to grow it, what to do, what the best conditions are. Even though I haven't done it for 40 years, I can raise all this stuff. I can grow strawberries. Somebody says strawberries are difficult. They are challenging, but if you just kind of know what you're doing. I've done strawberries, raspberries. I can cut sassafras root, not kill my trees and harvest it. But when it comes to, as someone mentioned, tea plantations, like they're all over Uganda, I've seen there, and tobacco, I have absolutely no idea. That's a bush out there. I have no idea when it's ready. I guess you cut it before it turns brown. That's all I know.
Yeah, Chris, I think in a way, agriculture is, I've seen so many changes within the agriculture sector. People trying to jump when it's like a cat on a hot plate. Once a sector is starting to become, it's difficult, the economical difficulty setting in, they start jumping to other sectors. And the thing that we've seen now, for instance, is people are jumping to avocados. The growth of the avocado production industry in America, South America, South Africa, the East Africa, we've seen it with peanuts. Everybody jumping now to try and make money. And everybody thinks it is a get quick rich scheme. Now, if I start giving you numbers and facts on tobacco production, you're going to become a millionaire within 1 year. But the reality
I became a millionaire within 1 hour with GameStop and Bitcoin.
Can you share some of that, please? I know where to go and borrow money.
GameStop and Bitcoin. Sorry, I just couldn't resist.
Well, I've been following this and just shaking my head. It's like, okay, I don't know anything about that.
It's pretty crazy. I actually know about it, and Wall Street's really angry because just the average Joes have managed to pull off something that Wall Street traders have been doing for years, and they kind of pissed them off. But Kevin Nicklin said synthetic nicotine apparently causes a lung condition called popcorn lung. Kevin, I don't know about that, but I have been told that electing a demented, senile bastard who's corrupt to be president of your country does cause corn pop syndrome. If anybody got that joke. Hey, remember Corn Pop? He's a bad dude at the pool.
Chris.
I think I got Herman. Okay. Yes, electing a demented, senile, old octogenarian, near octogenarian does cause corn pop syndrome. There he is, Chris Redlinghouse. Corn Pop's a bad dude. No, I used to sit around the pool when I was a young man. I was a lifeguard, and little black kids come over and grab the blonde hairs in my leg. And what?
Oh man, Chris, we are now venturing into dangerous territory.
Oh, we
Oh
get there
boy.
every day on Chris White Africa. Trust me. Dangerous territory every day.
Wow.
Hey, but listen, let's get back to something serious before we get, because we'll
Yeah,
have to end here soon.
let's get some questions from the viewers.
No,
'Cause
I've been bringing the viewers the question, but you guys, I mean, as tobacco farmers, you deal with a lot of things. You deal with the illicit trade, which undermines your business model and undermines your sales. You deal with government regulation. I mean, that's not a bad or good thing. It's just what you have to do. There's a lot of requirements, as you talk about. You have to weigh this stuff, chemical requirements. You got to meet certain standards, certifications. You've got labor. Even if you've got a good workforce, you always have labor issues. People are sick. They're off for HIV funerals and stuff like that. So there's always issues like that. But you also face the natural environment like any farmer does. And you guys have some particularly nasty little buggers like parasites and things like is it tobacco leaf mosaic? Is that a problem you have in South Africa?
Yeah, that's actually quite interesting, Chris, that you mentioned now parasites and bugs, because I've just done I've got a new YouTube channel called Herman Roos Agri, because people have been asking me a lot of times to do agricultural videos, and I said I'm not going to do that on my travel channel because that is separate from let's that's my private life, you know. But yeah, I did a thing on whitefly, and I showed the guys what whitefly can do to the detrimental, or how detrimental it can be to the tobacco crop. And as you said, hail is a major concern for us. Although we have insurance against hail, when it hail, it doesn't damage your crop to the extent of 100%. You don't get 100% damage. It is usually between 5% and 100%. Depends on how much hail. And how the insurance construction work is that 20% of the first 20% of the damage is on your own cost. You have to, that is, so after that, they start paying out. So at 21%, you start getting money back. But they don't pay you out 21%. It is 1%. So if you have 100% damage, you only get 80% of the total value.
Yep, gotcha. Wow.
So, and as I said, I did the whole thing on the whitefly. So yes, we have to contend with whitefly. There's other pests, red spider mites. There's so many things. We have soil-borne diseases that we have to, and some of these things come unexpectedly. You don't plan for it. You don't prepare for that. And it's like the whitefly that it just once, and I had this massive colonization, and I'm like, where the heck did you guys come from?
You weren't there yesterday.
You didn't come here on your ships, so how the heck did you come here?
Perhaps they hitched a ride with the defunct carrier South African Airways.
Probably.
No, but I mean, it's quite a challenge for you guys. But there was a question here earlier, Herman, before we get to the end of this, I want to bring up, and it would be interesting to get your views on this because lots of people have lots of supposition. But this was a question earlier from Marauder when he popped on the stream and said, do you have a theory regarding NDZ's ban and what could be behind it? Do you have any ideas why she's so? I mean, you've kind of alluded to it. Even as the health minister 2 decades ago, she was hell on tobacco. And she just has sort of said, this personal animosity against the evil weed.
Yeah. That's. I won't venture into the dark side of.
Probably smart.
That I won't. I know there's people who have made assumptions that she is part of the illicit trade, and we cannot prove that.
No, there's no evidence.
It's one of those things.
Talk about, yeah.
But the evidence is there that she has a personal hatred towards tobacco.
Yeah.
So does Dr. Aaron Matsoledi. And I think that is more. And you know, the best part is, Chris, a minister and a person in politics who are in a higher ranking position should never force down their personal beliefs onto the people. And that is what's happening here. Is because I hate alcohol, because I hate cigarettes, because I hate a police van or a car driving on the left of the street, I'm going to make it now the car drive on the right side of the street. whereas you should separate the two.
Well, I
And that
agree. I
just
mean, look, I
doesn't.
mean, I don't care for cigarettes. That's well known here. Yet I don't object to people
Yeah.
having the ability to smoke, and I even invest in tobacco stocks these days. So I think that's a very enlightened view for someone that doesn't like cigarettes.
Yeah.
Now there was something. Was it over here?
Sorry.
That's right. I saw something over here that I want to get across. I'm sorry. Michelle Lodigan wrote Net So. That she maybe start thinking of Dirk van der Westhuizen. That's one of his songs, Net So. Anyway, yikes. Well, going forward, so you said you don't think the cabinet has the stomach or the inclination to re-implement the tobacco ban. So, meantime, the illicit tobacco trade still continues. It's not like it's ended.
Yeah. Yeah, Chris, this is the best part for me. And the police are arresting people on the beach. Put one toe on that sand of that beach and we arrest you. And they will be sitting there right next to the beach on the promenade and watch the beach. Instead, and here, Yusuf and the guys from Tax Justice states it. The law is, and I'm quoting here, the law is being broken in plain sight across South Africa.
Yep.
And now that Tax Justice South Africa has documented clearly on film, it can no longer be denied by politicians or law enforcement. But still, it's easier to run behind the guy, the Minister of Police, running behind a guy somewhere in a town, arresting a guy in front of cameras for not wearing a mask.
No,
Instead of just going down the street, I think the area where he arrested that guy, if he just turned around, he would have found illicit cigarettes.
No, but see, I think here's where you lost the plot, Herman. I think you've just been a little confused. They're not keeping you up. Let me help you out. I have it on good authority after a conversation with Cyril Ramaphosa and Becca Chile. I've been talking to both of them. I have it on good authority that the reason why they're so hell on people on beaches, they have grave concerns. You see, the next wave is coming, and so they don't want people to get COVID. So, on the beaches, that's where the waves come. So they don't want everybody to die on the beaches because then it'll be on their conscience. So that's why it's necessary to put cops who can't afford to have proper patrol cars, but have awesome looking ATVs to tool around on the beach with, to make sure that all of these people can't get on the beach, because that tsunami, the next wave is coming. Wave number 37 in the COVID-19 scam-demic. So Becca Chile himself told me that's the issue. I was asking him about cash in transit heists. He says, no, that's a priority. Don't piss around with that. Leave that alone. We don't pay attention to that because it's a priority crime. So I asked him about Plasmore, and he said, those don't happen in South Africa. I'm like, oh, really? Okay, thanks. So what about this next wave? Oh, that's real. The next wave, the big wave is coming. So we're chasing people off the beach each and every day.
Yeah.
Sorry, I figured you weren't clued in on that. I know you don't get a chance to speak to these luminaries that often. I do. Here in Chris White Africa, they're always calling me every day, begging to be on the channel, and so I do talk to them about these issues.
You actually, thanks, Chris, for putting a bit of a light side on this topic, because
Well, let's be honest. That's a lot more fun than tobacco leaf mosaic, so.
Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is. Chris, sorry guys, I have to ask to end. In fact, we can end the stream. My voice is really
let's. I apologize for making you laugh.
No,
and exacerbating your throat
it
condition
was
there.
lovely. Chris, before we end, my voice is starting to disappear, and it was. Thanks. It was lovely. I would just like to do a special thanks tonight to Yusuf Abramji and the guys from Tax Justice SA for the brilliant work they did on smoking gun and exposing the illicit trade in South Africa. If we can get more journalists and people in and helping and assisting us to show, make short videos or just show how bad it is going. But yes, a special thanks to him tonight, and also to send me to read through this document. Chris, and thank you for being on your channel. My voice just disappeared now.
No, that's all right.
Thanks to the viewers. Thank you. I'm going to leave you to do the talking now.
All right. It's my pleasure. All right. Well, thanks a lot, Herman. I appreciate you coming on once again. I'll let you go ahead and drop off, and then I'll close the show out. But guess who I've got coming on tomorrow before you go? I have
Yeah.
Wendy Alberts from the Restaurant Association of South Africa to talk about the lockdown
Ah,
tomorrow on Chris White Africa. I've confirmed it.
thank you, Chris, and thank you, everybody. I'm looking forward to that stream. Cheers, everybody.
All
Good
right.
night.
Catch you later, Herman. Okay, folks,
Bye.
that's Herman Roos, a tobacco farmer from Northwest in South Africa. Well, folks, that was, I don't know about you, but I found that to be a fascinating stream. Herman was a trooper. I didn't realize his throat was bothering him that much. So thank you, Herman, for sticking with us. And brief interruption we had there with a phone call. Why is my... Hang a second here. Something's offline here. I've got to adjust my screen. I notice it's not quite in the right spot. So give me a second there, folks. It's probably because of a previous time we had this thing on. There we go. That's better. Anyway, well, thanks for tuning in, folks. Really appreciate it. There will be a Night Owls stream at 9:35 South Africa, Botswana, Namibia time tonight, 14:35 Eastern Standard Time. That'll be coming up. I'm going to run out now because my nearly 20-year-old Toyota 4Runner battery decided that, well, January is just a little bit too much, and I think the battery is like 10 or 12, 13 years old, so I have to replace the battery in my truck. Got to go jump start it and then go from there. So I'm going to be taking care of that, but I'll be back for the evening stream. And listen, folks, stay off the beaches because the next wave is coming, and you don't want to catch the Rona on the beach. You know, it's coming with the wave there. So anyway, my thanks to my special guest tonight, special feature guest, Herman Roos. Pleasure having him back on the channel again. Thanks to Joe Emilio for swinging by early in the stream. I don't know if he's still here. I guess we'll go check out that commercial, which was banned. I still don't know what that's about, but thank you for sharing that, Joe. And let me see if there's any last things here in the chat. Matilda said, thanks to Herman. And Frank Sinatra saying, fly me to the moon, let me play amongst the stars, let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. Yes, he did. Anyway, folks, that's it. Thank you for your questions. I don't always get a chance to get the questions in from the stream, especially if there's no super chats, but no, I did my best to try to get some of those questions in, so thank you all very much for that. And Michelle Lodigan, thank you for reminding me of Dirk van der Westhuizen, so now you got to go listen to that song. I love that video that he does. Anyway, there you go, folks. A little bit update about what's going on with tobacco in South Africa. So keep it in mind. If you smoke, you don't smoke. It is an important industry for South Africa. It does play a role in employees. I provided the figures for the actual number of employees. I want to say it's off the top of my head. I think it's like 30 or 40,000 directly in the immediate area, but it employs a much larger number of that in the ancillary industries. One of my earlier videos, I actually did the research and had that, but it's eluding my mind at the moment. And yes, I am wearing a rugby jersey. This is a road rugby jersey from the Rugby United New York from last season. The season was aborted. Only 5 games were played instead of the requisite 15 or 16 games. So, yeah, this is from last year. I love this jersey. Anyway, folks, thanks a lot. Please tune in later on for the Night Owl stream. And 99 likes. There it is. There's 100. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. 88 of you here. If you haven't smashed it, please smash it. Anyway, folks, thanks for tuning in. Thank you once again, Herman. I'm out of here. So this is, wow, like almost like just an hour, slightly over an hour stream because I do need to go take care of that truck. And I'll get back with you guys a little bit later. Thanks a lot for your support for the channel. Really appreciate it. I hope you found this interesting. Remember, tomorrow, if you're not back tonight for Night Owls, please tune in tomorrow at the same bat channel, same bat time. Right here on Chris White Africa at 6 p.m. South Africa time for Wendy Alberts, the head of the Restaurant Association of South Africa. And we'll be talking about the lockdown, the impact of that, about the court cases, about the government's mandatory wage and all these other things that are impacting on South Africa's restaurant industry, destroying it, in fact. And she'll be with us tomorrow. She is at the Union Building in Pretoria, along with the Khoisan, who are there trying to get recognition as First Nations for South Africa. And so she's there trying to get the unions, get the ANC's attention, and not Parliament, because Parliament's not there, but government's attention. Anyway, well, thanks a lot, folks. Thanks a lot. We'll catch you here tomorrow. Oh, no, she'll be back tomorrow. Tonight in 2.5 hours. Thank you very much. God bless. Appreciate your support. And I will catch you guys later on. Make sure I got everything straight here because I'm using something different here. So let's see if it works. And it worked. Look at that. Yay. And there was much rejoicing. Thank you, folks. God bless and have a lovely evening. And I'll see you back here for Night Owls. Sorry, no kung fu on this stream. Perhaps later, but not on this one. No kung fu on this stream. Maybe Night Owls. Come back. There's a reason to come back. Maybe you'll get a kung fu appearance.